At one point or another in your life, you may have asked yourself, why am I here? Or what's my purpose? Should cereal be considered soup? Why did the chicken cross the road? Is the hokey pokey really what it's all about? Or perhaps you've asked yourself an even broader question. What does it mean to be human? This is a difficult question because everyone tends to have their own opinions and perspectives, and I don't think it's possible to nail down a definite answer. However, I think we can pursue the answer and come pretty close, so I'm going to break it down into 3 steps. First, we need to understand how our free will and ability to reason affects our decision making. Secondly, we must realize that our ability to reason can sometimes be misleading. And thirdly, we must choose to accept our deficiency in knowledge and have faith in God, who knows infinitely more about the world than we as humans could ever begin to imagine. Now, I'm going to break it down and explain this in a very simple way, so bear with me as we begin our first step of the journey in the Bible. As documented in the book of Genesis, God created man and woman in his own image. God gifted humanity with free will and the right to use reason in the pursuit of knowledge, and this is one of the areas that separates us from animals. Although this gift ultimately led to the fall of humanity and pushed us further from God, I believe that it also has the power to draw us closer to Him than we could ever imagine if leveraged correctly. In Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman separates the human thought process into 2 categories: System 1, which is fast, instinctive, and emotional, and System 2, which is slower, more deliberative, and more logical. Some examples of System 1 thought include identifying locations of a sound, eating food when hungry, or detecting and avoiding danger. Some examples of System 2 thought include mentally preparing to start a sprint, parallel parking, or solving 17 times 24 in your head. Just give me a second here. 408. As humans, we tend to go about our days mostly in System 1 state of mind because it is the most efficient and useful for survival. However, the ability to reason and ask questions in a System 2 thought process is a good representation of how we are created in the image of God, thus separating us from other creatures who live in System 1 to survive. Kahneman explains this perfectly in his quote, "Intelligence is not only the ability to reason, it is also the ability to find relevant material in memory and to deploy attention to it when needed." Now, System 2 thought is great and all, but you might be wondering, if our ability to reason ultimately led to the fall of humanity as seen in Genesis, how do we know that we can trust it? How do we know that we aren't delusional in our beliefs? Well, I'm glad you asked, because Plato had an interesting way of representing this concept through his allegory of the cave found in Book 7 of the Republic. Now, before we go on this journey, I'm going to turn off the lights. Don't worry though, I've got a flashlight. Picture this. A group of prisoners are living in a cave with one light source, and they are being forced to look at one wall in which shadows appear and disappear regularly. The prisoners have lived here all of their lives and have never been outside of the cave. Behind the prisoners is a fire, and in between them is a walkway. People from outside the cave travel across this walkway carrying things such as plants, animals, and stones, and shadows of them are projected onto the wall due to the fire. The prisoners have never seen the physical objects causing the shadows before, and have therefore learned to believe that the shadows were real. One day, a prisoner escapes and is able to travel outside of the cave. He is shocked at the world that he discovers and does not believe it can be real. As he continues to observe and learn more about his new surroundings, he begins to realize that his former view of reality was wrong. The prisoner then returns to the cave to inform the others about his findings, but they think he is crazy and do not believe him. This is not only a good example of how stubborn and close-minded we can be, but also how our reasoning can lead us astray. Plato's main point in illustrating all of this is that we as humans can be delusional to our senses, and could be missing a higher perspective containing more truth. There isn't really a way that we can prove or disprove this claim, unless we are somehow able to be freed to experience and reason beyond our human senses. Thankfully, there is a way we can achieve this higher experience of knowledge and truth, and that is through faith in the promise of God. God's definition of truth is infinitely more pure than we will ever be able to perceive. We can use our reason to pursue knowledge and the truth of God. However, we will never be able to attain it at its fullest potential, and that's okay. Many people who claim to be atheist or non-religious stop here. If our reasoning cannot fully prove or understand God and how He works, then He simply cannot be real, right? C.S. Lewis takes a logical approach in debunking this idea in Book 1 of Mere Christianity, in which he states, "Suppose there was no intelligence behind the universe, no creative mind. In that case, nobody designed my brain for the purpose of thinking. It is merely that when the atoms inside my skull happen, for physical or chemical reasons, to arrange themselves in a certain way, this gives me the sensation I call thought. But if so, how can I trust my own thinking to be true? It is like upsetting a milk jug and hoping that the way it splashes into itself will give you a map of London. But if I cannot trust my own thinking, of course I can't trust the arguments leading to atheism, and therefore have no reason to be an atheist, or anything else. Unless I believe in God, I cannot believe in thought, so I can never use thought to disbelieve in God." To map this out visually, God gifted us with the ability to reason, and He gives that to us indefinitely. However, this ability to reason produces knowledge within us that can only get so far to God. Faith is what enables us to be content with our limited ability to reason, while also pursuing a relationship with God through what we do know. Faith and knowledge go hand in hand. So, what does it mean to be human? I don't think it's possible for us to obtain the purest answer to this question. However, I do believe that we can choose to pursue it in 3 steps. The first step is to have humility before God, our Creator, who has infinitely more knowledge and power than we could ever begin to imagine. Adam and Eve fell to sin in the garden because they were not able to be content with their inferiority to God. In order to understand our purpose on a deeper level, we must first choose to humble ourselves before God, the Creator. The second step is understanding that we are made in the image of God and that we have the free but limited ability to reason. Although our reasoning could be tainted, similarly to the prisoners in Plato's allegory of the cave, we must choose to learn from what God chooses to reveal to us, knowing that we will never be able to comprehend reality in its entirety. The third step is a combination of the first 2 steps. I believe that when we choose to humble ourselves and have faith in God who is infinitely more powerful than us, and when we choose to pursue Him with our ability to reason, learn, and grow in our personal gifts and strengths, we can then start to understand what it truly means to be human. Although we will never be able to identify a definite answer, I do believe that we are created to pursue it in community with one another, while maintaining a spirit of love and patience in spite of our differences. We are all interconnected through the love of God, and our pursuit of truth will never end as long as we are human beings. Thank you for watching. I hope you walk away feeling eager to pursue this question even further.